Have you ever felt that quiet restlessness inside you? The sense that life as it is cannot be all there is. You wake up, follow the routine, play your role, and yet something in your chest whispers, there must be more than this. It's not dissatisfaction with your achievements, nor the lack of success or love. It's something deeper, a knowing that your soul longs for expansion, for meaning beyond comfort, for the truth that hides behind the familiar walls of daily life. This is the moment when life begins to speak in symbols. The job that once defined you now feels empty. The relationship that gave you warmth starts to reveal the fear of losing yourself. The silence between your thoughts becomes heavier, as if something unseen is waiting to be acknowledged. You might call it a crisis, but it is, in truth, a calling, a sacred invitation from the depths of your being to awaken. That call does not shout. It arrives quietly disguised as discomfort, loss, or confusion. It whispers, "Come." There is something you must see. And even though it stirs fear, a small spark ignites within you a curiosity that asks, what if I follow this voice? This is the beginning of your hero's journey. It is not about becoming extraordinary in the eyes of the world, but about remembering who you truly are beneath every mask you've learned to wear. Life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. Every challenge, every silence, every longing has been guiding you toward this moment of awakening. To answer this call is to say yes to transformation, to walk toward what you fear most, the uncertainty, the vulnerability, the unknown, is to step into the threshold where your true strength begins to awaken. The one who seeks to become unshakable must first have the courage to listen. So pause for a moment. Listen closely. The call has already been made. It is not somewhere out there, it is within you, echoing softly, like a distant drum, guiding you home. And yet, even when you hear it, there is always resistance. The mind hesitates, the heart trembles, and the self clings to what is safe. You begin to whisper to yourself, not yet. I'm not ready. That's where the next part of your journey begins. When the call first reaches you, it rarely feels like a blessing. It feels like a disruption, like life suddenly pulling away the comfort you worked so hard to build. And your first instinct is simple, you resist. You tell yourself, I'm not ready. I need more time. I can handle this. You try to silence the whisper that keeps inviting you toward change. You see, the human heart fears the unknown more than it fears pain. You would rather stay in a familiar prison than walk toward a freedom you cannot predict. So you build walls of logic around yourself. You convince yourself that control is safety, that if you can just keep everything in order, no chaos will reach you. You hide behind the performance of being fine, because admitting your fear feels like failure. But behind the calm mask, something trembles. You begin to feel the weight of pretending. Each smile that hides exhaustion, each act of strength that conceals fragility, these are the cracks forming in the armor you've worn for too long. The more you cling to the image of perfection, the more fragile you become. Because control is an illusion. The world will always move beyond your grasp. What you're truly fighting is not life itself, but your own reflection, the part of you that knows change is coming, the part that has grown tired of denying its truth. The longer you resist, the louder life becomes. It will send you signals, a broken relationship, a dream that fades in emptiness that no achievement can fill. These are not punishments. They are invitations disguised as pain. Every time you ignore them, a piece of you fades into the background, a fragment of your soul left waiting for you to return. You start to live half alive, existing but not expanding, breathing but not awakening. The tragedy is not that people don't hear the call, it's that they pretend not to. You wear your mask of strength so convincingly that even you begin to believe it. But late at night, when the noise fades, you can still hear the faint echo inside. There is more to you than this. That whisper will not go away. It is patient. It will wait until you are ready to stop running. And when the exhaustion of resistance becomes too heavy, something within you will shift. You will realize that safety is not found in hiding. It is found in surrender. That is the moment when the true journey begins, when you stop defending your walls and dare to cross the threshold into the unknown. Because beyond that line lies the place you've always feared to enter and the treasure your heart has been seeking all along. There comes a moment when the old life can no longer hold you. The routines, the roles, the masks, they begin to crumble under their own weight. What once felt like safety now feels like suffocation. And so even with trembling hands, you take your first step toward the unknown. This is the crossing of the threshold, the sacred turning point where you leave behind what was familiar and step into the mystery of what could be. At first, everything feels uncertain. The ground beneath you shifts. People may not understand your choice to change. They might call it reckless or strange. But deep down, you know this is not a choice. It is a response to something far greater than fear. It is obedience to your soul's longing. You are being called not to escape the world, but to see it with new eyes. The unknown is not empty, it is alive. It contains every possibility that your old self could not have imagined. But to walk through it, you must be willing to let go of the self you once were. You cannot carry your armor into this world. You cannot drag the weight of who you thought you had to be. This is the moment where the illusions begin to dissolve one by one. And yes, it is dark here. It feels like stepping into a cave, the one you've avoided all your life. The air is heavy, and the silence feels endless. You might ask yourself, what if I can't do this? What if I lose everything? But in that silence, you also hear something new, a calmness that wasn't there before. It's as if the universe itself is breathing with you, guiding you deeper. Inside this darkness lies not punishment, but potential. The cave is not a place of death. It is the womb of transformation. Every fear you face here is a gatekeeper, and behind each gate waits a piece of your true self. The treasure you seek has always been hidden in the place you least wanted to go. As you continue forward, something begins to shift inside you. The fear doesn't vanish, but it starts to lose its power. You begin to sense that what you are truly afraid of is not the unknown. It is your own greatness, waiting to be born through the unknown. You are no longer just surviving. You are searching. You are not running from the dark. You are walking with it. And though you don't yet see the light, you begin to trust that it exists somewhere ahead, waiting to meet you when you're ready. Because every true journey begins in the dark, and only those who dare to step into it ever find the dawn. Once you've crossed the threshold, you find yourself in a vast and unfamiliar landscape. The certainties that once anchored you have disappeared, and the world feels strange, too quiet, too wide. In this silence, your instinct is to look for guidance. You long for a hand to hold a voice to tell you what to do next. And it is often here in the middle of that uncertainty that the mentor appears. But the mentor does not always arrive as a person. Sometimes it's a passage from a book that finds you at the perfect moment. Sometimes it's a stranger's kindness, a dream that lingers in your memory, or a sudden stillness that whispers truth when the mind is too tired to think. It can even be your own intuition, the quiet intelligence of your being that you've ignored for so long. Whatever form it takes, guidance always comes when you are open enough to listen. You begin to notice that wisdom was never missing. It was just drowned out by the noise of control and fear. When you let that noise fade, what remains is a voice that speaks with clarity, not from the outside, but from within. This voice doesn't command, it invites. It tells you that everything you need for this journey is already inside you. All you must do is trust it. Trust, however, is not easy. It means walking without a map, allowing each step to reveal the next. It means believing that the same force that calls you forward will also sustain you. The mentor teaches you this truth, not through words, but through experience. Life itself becomes the teacher, and every challenge, every loss, every silence becomes part of your initiation. As you move deeper, you start to gather tools, inner tools. Awareness becomes your compass, acceptance your shield, and stillness your sword. These are not weapons to fight the world, but instruments to navigate your own depths. Through them, you learn that strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the ability to remain open in the midst of it. You realize that what you seek outside has always been within you. The mentor only points the way. The journey itself must be walked by you. Each moment you trust your inner knowing, you take another step toward freedom. And as your trust deepens, so does the test. Because the next phase of your journey will challenge everything you think you've learned. It will take you into the very heart of your shadows, the place where every unhealed wound waits to be seen. That is where the real transformation begins. Now, the path begins to narrow. What once seemed like a gentle invitation becomes an unrelenting demand. Life starts to strip away every illusion you've clung to one layer at a time. The things you believed made you strong begin to crumble, and in their place, the truth you've been avoiding starts to surface. This is the road of trials, the descent into your own depths. You begin to encounter the shadows you've denied: anger, shame, jealousy, regret, loneliness. Each one rises from the dark, not to destroy you, but to be seen. Yet at first, it feels like a war within. You fight these emotions as if they were enemies, because that's what you've always been taught to conquer your weakness, to silence your pain, to bury your past. But the more you resist them, the stronger they become. Every suppressed feeling grows roots in silence. Every unspoken truth echoes louder in the heart. Eventually, you can no longer escape yourself. The only way forward is through. And so you descend. You step into the belly of the whale, where there is no light to comfort you, no direction to follow. You feel lost, broken, unmade. It is here that you realize transformation does not come through victory. It comes through surrender. You must allow the self you've built to dissolve so something real can emerge. In this darkness, you start to see differently. You begin to understand that your pain was never punishment. It was initiation. Every wound you carry has been carving space within you for greater wisdom, greater love, greater presence. The agony of loss, teaches compassion. The fire of failure teaches humility. The ache of loneliness reveals connection. This is not about transcending suffering, but transforming through it. When you stop running from your shadows, they stop chasing you. When you face them, they begin to soften, and behind their fierce appearance, you find something sacred power, without armor, strength, without resistance, love without condition. And in that moment of surrender, a quiet rebirth begins. You haven't escaped your darkness, you've integrated it. The warrior and the wounded merge into one. The shadow no longer frightens you because you have walked through its heart and found yourself still standing. This is the first taste of true freedom. But the journey is not done. For what follows, this symbolic death is something even more profound, the awakening that comes after the fall when light finally returns to the cave. At some point, every journey reaches its deepest point, the place where everything that once defined you dissolves. This is the symbolic death, the moment when the old self finally surrenders. It is not a gentle experience. It feels like losing everything: identity, certainty, purpose. What used to make sense no longer does. The life you built no longer fits who you are becoming. And yet, in that collapse, something extraordinary begins to happen. When you stop fighting to hold the pieces together, silence enters. Not the silence of emptiness, but of clarity. It's the stillness that comes after the storm, the moment when, for the first time, you are not trying to be anything at all. You are simply here. In that stillness, the ego's voice fades, and what remains is awareness, pure, simple, unshakable. You realize that you are not the roles you've played, nor the stories you've believed. You are the space in which all of it happens. The pain, the joy, the fear, the love, they rise and fall like waves, but something within you remains untouched. That is the self beneath the self, the essence that was never broken, only hidden. This is rebirth not into a new identity, but into authenticity. You no longer need to prove your worth or defend your place in the world. You see that everything you've lost was never truly yours. It was only the scaffolding around your becoming. What remains is simple and true, a quiet power, a peaceful strength that does not need recognition. You begin to live differently. You speak less, but mean more. You act without needing control. You listen not to respond, but to understand. The world hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. You no longer see life as something happening to you, but through you. Each event, each emotion, each encounter becomes part of a larger, unfolding a dance between your soul and existence itself. The rebirth is not an end. It is the first breath after a long drowning. It's the gentle light returning after the longest night. You rise not as who you were, but as who you've always been. And in that realization, the fear that once ruled you begins to dissolve. You understand. Now, to be unshakable is not to harden yourself against life. It is to open so fully that nothing can destroy you. For what can touch the one who has become whole? But there is still one more step to return to the world carrying the light you found in the darkness. You have descended into the depths, faced the shadows, and died to who you thought you were. Now you rise, not as someone new, but as someone real. This is the moment of illumination, the discovery of the treasure that was hidden in the cave of fear. It is not gold or glory, it is clarity. You now understand that everything you sought outside has always been within you. The world around you may look the same, but your perception has changed entirely. The noise of judgment, the chaos of expectation, The wounds of the past, they no longer define you. You see them, you feel them, but they pass through you like wind through an open field. What once controlled you has lost its power, not because it disappeared, but because you have learned to remain still within it. This is the real treasure of the hero's journey, the quiet knowing that pain is not the enemy, and peace is not the absence of challenge. Peace is the presence of understanding. To be unshakable does not mean to be invulnerable. It means to be fully alive, to allow yourself to feel everything without losing the center of your being. You walk among people again, but something about your presence feels different. You no longer hide behind roles or masks. You don't need to prove to compete or to please. You listen to life instead of trying to control it. And from that stillness within compassion naturally flows. You see others not as obstacles, but as mirrors, each one reflecting a different aspect of the same human story. The treasure you bring back is not something to own. It is something to share. It is the light of awareness, the wisdom born from suffering, the gentle strength of acceptance. By simply being you, become a living reminder that awakening is possible. Your journey becomes an offering. Your wounds become wisdom. Your silence becomes guidance. The true privilege of a lifetime is being who you are, not the idealized version you once chased, but the authentic self that stands open and whole. That is the meaning of the return to re-enter the world, not as an escapee from suffering, but as a witness to its beauty. And now, as you walk this earth, again carrying the treasure of awareness, you realize that the journey was never about escaping life. It was about embracing it completely. The world didn't change. You did. And through you, the world becomes brighter. But the journey does not end here. Illumination calls for expression. Your truth now asks to be lived, shared, embodied. To follow your inner bliss is to walk forward with courage, letting life unfold through your awakened self. When you finally touch the truth within yourself, something profound awakens, a quiet calling deeper than ambition and louder than fear. It's not a demand, it's an invitation. It whispers, live from this truth. Walk with it. Share it. This is what it means to follow your bliss. It's not about chasing pleasure or comfort. It's about answering the call of your soul, the pulse of life that has always been guiding you toward wholeness. Following your bliss is the act of alignment. It's when what you love, what you are, and what you give to the world become one movement. You no longer act out of obligation or expectation. You act from presence. Your choices begin to flow naturally from the deep recognition that life is not something you have to conquer. It's something you are meant to experience fully. This kind of freedom is not rebellion, it's remembrance. You remember that everything you've been searching for was never separate from you. Love, purpose, peace. They are not destinations, but expressions of the self that you've reclaimed. And when you live from that space, life begins to mirror your inner harmony. Doors open where walls once stood. People, opportunities, and synchronicities appear not because you control them, but because you are finally moving in rhythm with the universe itself. But following your bliss does not mean you will never face struggle again. It means that even when struggle comes, you no longer see it as punishment. You understand that every challenge is part of the unfolding, every loss a teacher, every silence a doorway. You no longer need to resist what is because you trust that life is intelligent, that it knows exactly what it's doing through you. As you live this truth, your presence becomes a quiet beacon for others. You don't need to preach or persuade. You simply live, and that is enough. Your authenticity becomes your message. You show others that strength is not hardness, but openness, that peace is not distance, but intimacy with all that is. And through you, the light continues its journey, flowing from one awakening heart to another. You become part of a greater story, one that has been unfolding since the beginning of time, the eternal dance between fear and courage, darkness and light loss and rebirth. But even now, there is one more step, the one that brings this entire journey full circle. For every true hero after the awakening comes the call to share, to invite others into their own transformation. At the end of every great journey, the hero stands where it all began, but nothing is the same. The landscape is familiar, the faces unchanged, yet the eyes that behold them now see differently. You have walked through fire, through silence, through the deepest darkness of your own being, and emerged carrying the light you once feared to seek. Now you understand what it truly means to be unshakable. It's not about becoming untouchable, nor about rising above life's storms. It's about allowing them to move through you without breaking your center. To be unshakable is not to reject pain, but to transform through it. To stand in the middle of chaos and remain rooted in peace. To love even when love brings loss. To live even when life demands surrender. This is where the real adventure begins, not in distant lands, but in the ordinary moments of your daily life. Each conversation, each silence, each act of kindness becomes a continuation of the journey. You carry the treasure, not as a prize, but as a way of being. You are both the traveler and the path itself. And perhaps as you stand here now, you realize that the entire time life was never testing you, it was shaping you. Every fall was preparation. Every heartbreak was a refinement. Every ending was a doorway to the next beginning. You were never being destroyed. You were being remade. So, if today you find yourself standing at the edge of uncertainty, trembling before another unknown, remember this: the cave you fear to enter still holds the treasure you seek. Do not turn back. The fear you feel is only the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. Close your eyes, take a breath, and listen. That quiet pulse you hear, that is life calling you once again. The same call that began your journey now invites you to live it more deeply, to embody what you've learned, to share your light, because no one else can walk this path for you. No one else can bring your light into this world in the way that only you can. The invitation remains: will you accept the call? If you do, then take a moment now. Breathe it in. Whisper it softly, not as a declaration, but as a promise to your own soul. I accept the call. And as you do, let these words echo through you. You are not here to be untouched by life. You are here to be transformed by it.